Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video we are once again going to be talking about that upcoming snowstorm for the northeastern United States the day before Halloween. Now before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do think weather related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. Now, I would also highly recommend that you check out our very useful and exciting Patreon page. Today, actually, this morning, I already uploaded our preliminary snowfall forecast for this exact storm that we're talking about. You won't have access to that for a while unless you go check out the Patreon for cheaper than the price of a pound of ground beef. That's a great deal if you ask me. And look, if you ever want to cancel, you can always do so at any point if you don't feel satisfied, but I'm very confident you will love it. Anyway, for today's comment of the day, I want to know, which state do you think will see the most snowfall from this snowstorm? Let me know in the comments down below and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Now let's get into this video, and we're just taking a look at our simulated radar here on our European model. This model has had a great handle on this storm since the very beginning. This is the only model that hasn't really fluctuated, and I'm feeling quite confident in its interpretation of this storm. So we're seeing some rain moving in. This is Thursday at about 2 p.m. But let's just move it to about 8 p.m. on Thursday, which is going to be the 29th. And as you can see, some blues are really starting to show up for our mountainous regions. The Adirondacks, portions of the Catskills, and even the Green Mountains and Berkshires there as well. And you can see there's a lot of precipitation on its way as colder temperatures are moving in at the same time. We're about to see a lot more snow show up on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on towards, I would say about 11 p.m. on Thursday night, and then we're just going to move on from that point. It's going to get snowier and snowier. Alright, now here we are at about 11 p.m. on Thursday night, like I said, and as you can see, a lot more blues showing up there for the Catskills, the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, the Berkshires, and even some of those mountainous regions there in western or even southwestern New Hampshire. The White Mountains are getting some snow showers, but not a lot of heavy precipitation has made it up that far north yet. So let's just go ahead and move on towards about maybe 2 a.m. that night, and you can see that this is going to be Friday the 30th at 2 a.m., and we're seeing a lot more precipitation move in, a lot more colder air, and it's just getting more and more snowy. The Catskills are having heavy snowfall, same story with the Berkshires, the Green Mountains, and then there near Keene into the north of Keene in New Hampshire. Tons of snow coming down. Those areas are going to have an easier time seeing accumulations because it's snowing so much to begin with before anywhere else has switched over. I expect those areas to have the highest amounts of accumulations if it is to play out similar to this. And by about 8 a.m. here, as you can see, we see a lot more widespread snowfall. North central Pennsylvania in through a lot of upstate New York, even western New York as well. A lot of Massachusetts, southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire. We're seeing lots and lots of snow by this point. And we're actually about to see a lot more move in by about 2 p.m. on Friday. Or actually, you know what? It's more like 12 p.m. on Friday, October 30th. We're going to see a ton of snowfall move in. That snow rain line is going to move even further south, so more areas are going to get snowfall as well. So here's by about 12 p.m. on Friday, and look, this is really starting to get heavier there for a lot of Pennsylvania, especially northern Pennsylvania here. There is some more central regions where it goes a lot further south. Also, New York right there along that Pennsylvania-New York border seems to get a lot of moderate to heavy snowfall by this point. Northwestern New Jersey as well. We see northern Connecticut, still a lot of western Massachusetts getting quite a bit of snowfall. I expect it to be a pretty decent snowstorm for you guys. Southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire. The one thing I do want to note is I think it will be a little more northern based than what the European model is showing here. I think areas further north would get a little bit more than what this model is showing. We'll talk about that in the modeled snowfall forecast at the end of this video when we take a look at the European model, the GFS, the Canadian, the ICON model, all of that. We'll talk about why I think it could be a little bit further north, but for now we're just going to stick with the simulated radar. Let's move towards 2 p.m. and as you can see, we still have a ton of moderate to heavy snowfall going on for now, especially northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, portions of New York there. Basically, with the exception of New York City and Long Island, a lot of New York has seen tons of snowfall. Connecticut, especially northwestern Connecticut, western Massachusetts, even Boston getting some snowfall by this point. Very, very interesting. Southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, for sure getting in on a lot of that moderate to heavy snowfall. But again, I think it could be a bit further north than that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to move on and we're going to take a look at the very tail end of this storm on simulated radar, and then we're going to get right into the snowfall forecast according to a lot of these models. And this is probably by about 5 p.m. on Friday. So throughout the day on Friday is when we're probably going to see most of the snowfall if this storm is to occur like this. We still have a few days to go. Confidence is increasing because all the models are on board now, which is a really, really good sign. So I would say there's about a 75 to 80% chance of some sort of snowfall happening that looks similar to this, maybe a little bit further north, like I said. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. But we're still seeing very heavy snowfall by this point for northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, in through a lot of upstate New York, in through most of Connecticut, most of Massachusetts, and all of Rhode Island here. Boston seeing some very heavy snowfall by this point. Very, very interesting. Long Island as well, starting to get some snowfall at the very tail end. You can just see the cold air pouring in at the very end of this storm. If this storm is a little bit later, we're going to see a lot more snow, and that's obviously a possibility. So we'll need to pay attention to the timing as well, because that's very, very crucial. If the storm comes through earlier, we're going to see much less snowfall. So that's the very, very important part of timing. So let's just move towards 8 p.m. that night, and you can see we're at the very tail end of the storm. But still Long Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and portions of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York still seeing some moderate snowfall. And then by the time we're at about maybe 11 p.m., we're going to be closing out this storm. Still some snow showers around for southern New England, but it's really coming to an end by this point. You can see the low pressure center is very far offshore by this point. Very cold air is going to follow this storm as well, probably locking in the snow that is accumulated until at least Halloween night and possibly afterwards, obviously. Depending on where you're at, some areas higher elevation going to be a lot colder. All right, now what we're going to do here is we're going to move on and we're going to take a look at the total snowfall according to all of these models. The European model, the GFS model, the Canadian model, the ICON model, our European ensemble model, and then our GFS ensemble model. And then we're going to close out the video. So we have a lot to go over. Again, if you want to see our snowfall forecast, you can check it out on our Patreon page for cheaper than a pound of ground beef. You can check that out in the description and the pinned comment down below if you want our official opinion. We will be posting that on the YouTube channel eventually. So if you don't want to do that, rest assured you will get access to that eventually. But here's our European model's projection at this point. Anywhere in the grays, we're under 2 inches, but really I think that's anything, maybe a dusting, because it's so warm. It's going to have a harder time accumulating. All of this isn't going to stick. Again, I've been saying this for days now. This is the snow that's going to fall out of the sky, not necessarily the snow that's going to stick. So you could even be in the lighter blues and really just not even see much accumulation at all, especially on the southern end there. So it's going to be very tough to forecast exactly how much snowfall you could get. But generally, anywhere in those blue colors, you're at about 2 to 6 inches of snow falling out of the sky. So I would say it's a pretty safe bet to say you're going to receive 2 to 4 inches of accumulated snowfall. And then in those purples, that's where this model is trending at 6 to 10 inches of snow. That's the areas that could see a very good amount of snowfall. I really think the higher elevations are going to have an easier time accumulating. First off, because it's going to be colder. Second off, because as we saw before, the snow begins to fall a lot earlier on for those regions, and I think that's going to really help the snow stick for your areas. Let's just move on to the GFS model, and it's actually incredible how similar this looks. Quite impressive to see this much agreement this early on. That's a really good sign, and I really think this GFS model is onto a really, really good idea of what this storm's going to be like. It's a little further north-based than what the European model is showing, but really where it keeps those purples is very similar locations. Berkshires, Green Mountains, and Catskills seems to be the bullseye for this storm at this point. Let's just move on and take a look at that Canadian model, and this one's actually a lot different. And remember I said I'll talk about the potential for a more north-based storm, and here it is. This model has it much further north. The Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, and the White Mountains are actually the bullseye in this storm. Boston's still seeing a good amount of snowfall. Same story with Connecticut and Rhode Island, just not nearly as much as what the European and GFS model are showing. In the coming days, what we will see with these models is we're going to see a lot more agreement. One of these two options is going to win, and all of the models will come on board to either this north-based option or what the European model and the GFS model were showing with the more southern-based option. For now, it's 50-50, and that really creates a toss-up. It's very hard to predict at this point until they come together and show something, all of them showing a very similar outlook. For now, it's very split. Now, let's take a look at our icon model, and same story, very north-based, kind of like the Canadian model. But this one has a lot more snowfall, a general 10 to, I would say, 15 inches of snow in those brighter pinks for a lot of the Adirondacks, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine as well. It'd be interesting if we see a solution similar to that. And here's the interesting thing, real quickly as we're closing out. Here's our European ensemble model, and it's much further north than actually our normal European model, which usually means that the European model will eventually come further north like its ensemble model is showing. That's not always the case, but that's something to pay attention to. Here's the GFS ensemble model, and same story, it's a bit further north than what the normal GFS model is showing. And this might look like less snowfall, but keep in mind, some of these members are showing 0 inches, and then some of them are showing like 15 inches, and it comes together and really averages out near, 5 inches over the course of all of those models showing very different things. So take it with a grain of salt. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, how much snowfall do you think is the maximum anywhere we'll see from this storm? And Falcon Doip said 8 to 12 inches in the mountains, and I do think that 8 inches plus is going to happen somewhere in those higher elevation areas, so I agree a lot with what Falcon Doip is saying. Anyway, for today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank all of you for supporting the channel, but especially our diamond patrons. Michael Codalessa, sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. If I'm saying anybody's name wrong, let me know. Message me on the Patreon. I always respond to the messages I get on Patreon. So if you ever want to message me anything and you're a patron, you can always do that. Madbirds, Rosemary Haynes, Alicia Davis, Catbite, Terry Curtis, It's Jay, Cindy Klein, Kellen Manhart, Michael Buell, Mariah Vieira, Dan Hazard, and Mark J. Also, our platinum patrons, Adam S., Donna Carnes, Alan Belemo, Larry LePan, Dovie Nagel, James Wade, and Cameron Marshall. Anyway, that's a mouthful. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. If you would like to end up on this Patreon end screen, you can do so by becoming a patron. Check it out in the description and the pinned comment down below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and social media. I will see you guys in the next video.